Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this week we have NebulasRay. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Namco, NebulasRay originally released to arcades in 1994. Now jump forward to May of 2025, and it's available for the PlayStation 4 and 5, as well as the Nintendo Switch as its first home console release as part of the Arcade Archives. This title is a vertical scrolling shoot 'em up with pre-rendered 3D graphics. Overall, I've enjoyed my time with it as it's a solid, though shorter experience, but there's one thing I do take issue with. This is the second Arcade Archives title to release with a premium price point, and although I feel it was justified with the first one, Mazinger Z, I don't feel the content here necessarily justifies that. That said, it is a shoot 'em up that's worth experiencing, so it'd be great if you could get this on a sale. Sadly, these titles usually don't go on sale that often. Placing credits into the machine, you can see that it supports 1 or 2 players. This is 2 players simultaneous, so it will be the way that we show the game off.
Final check complete. All systems
When you fire up the game, right off the bat, we see the game's pre-rendered 3D graphics. They do a great job of setting this game apart for the way that it looks. It came out in a time right before 3D games were becoming super common, so I felt that they did a good job given the arcade hardware they had, developing a game that has that look, but it still has its own unique feel. As far as the overall gameplay is concerned, this one is an orthodox vertical scroller. You have a primary shot, a bomb, and then overall movement. There is some left and right movement to the scrolling, but especially when you're playing with a second player, it's pretty easy to go and lock the scrolling one way or another, potentially being able to hold off some of the enemies on the screen to keep things more manageable. Throughout the course of the gameplay, we will be collecting power-ups, and there are 2 primary shots that we have available to us. There's the wide shot, which is represented by the power-up W, and there's also a straight shot that goes by the power-up G. That one you can power up, well, both of them you can power up to level 5, but one thing to note, you can't increase power when you collect the same, when you swap between the 2 weapons. So if you're at, say, level 2 of wide, you pick up the gain shot, you will have a level 2 of that shot, but it doesn't increase power if you were to swap back to the wide. It would still go and be level 2. In addition to those, we get some speed power-ups. You can get really, really fast in this game, so it's a little inconvenient that way. And there are also some sub-weapons that you can collect for a period of time that they last for a counter that appears at the top of the screen. Once that counter expires, then that power-up will, the length of that power-up ends. As far as the power-ups are concerned, that is one thing that I think is interesting about this title. They cycle through in a set pattern. So initially you have a speed up that will always go and show up, then you'll have a sub-weapon, and then you'll have the options to increase the power of your weapon either via the wide or the gain shot. So another one of the sub-weapons here, D, this deflector will go and defend you from the standard enemy shots, but lasers or physical contact with the enemies will still count as a miss, and you'll lose a life. We also have bombs as well that are picked up with the B icon here.
Okay. Target lock set. Okay.
The bombs do clear all the enemy shots on the screen, but they do not provide any invincibility, so that's something to keep in mind. So now we've found ourselves approaching the final boss of the stage itself. I do have to say, I do really like these fleet battle stages in any space shooter, so the way that this game starts really resonates well with me. But after we take off the battleship that this is attached to, this satellite is our stage boss. So now we can use the bombs themselves to take out these missiles, and we do have to be careful for the way that this enemy shoots. The patterns can be a little bit tricky. There are no health indicators for the boss, but generally they go down pretty quick, so that's not too big of an issue. Once you've completed the stage, you're given bonus based off of the number of bombs you have in reserve, as well as the number of point items you were able to pick up throughout the course of the stage. So another thing here, so there are some neat sci-fi elements to the game itself. What we saw there when we were entering the stage, since we were approaching it from out of orbit, you do see a brief section that indicates entering the atmosphere. I do like little touches like that in any kind of shoot 'em up that just show some attention to detail, that nice sort of overall gameplay element. And basically with that, you have what's here for NebulasRay. So as far as other elements are concerned, as I mentioned, the game is a little bit of a shorter experience. The stages are well designed and they're a good length, so they don't overstay their welcome, but there are only 6 stages total, so that's something to keep in mind. Especially when, as I mentioned, you have to consider the price point of this being commanding a premium price for an Arcade Archive title. So overall, there we have it. That's NebulasRay served up for your enjoyment. As far as the minus flavors are concerned, the biggest thing, and I know I've mentioned this multiple times at this point, is I just I'm a little surprised that they chose to use that premium price point for this title. The game is on the shorter side, so while that's not itself a problem, given the content that's available for this particular release, it is a little surprising that we have that kind of a price point being asked for. But one thing I can go note about the length of the game itself is, after you finish the 6 stages, you get another round, basically almost a second loop of the first stage as a bonus stage to add on to your points. You only have a single life to go and do that with, but just that little extra touch at the end of the game is quite welcome. As far as the plus flavors are concerned, so although it's not necessarily it can be hit or miss, I felt that this game did extremely well with that pre-rendered 3D look that it has for the era, and that's one of the big pluses for this particular title, is that graphics. Then the overall gameplay and design is quite solid, though it can be a little on the difficult side, with some of the later stages having a lot of enemies and some of the boss patterns being quite hard to dodge overall. But it's an experience that I feel is well worth it. I'm happy to be able to have this title as an Arcade Archive release. It's definitely does what I love most about those releases, and gives the chance for more obscure arcade titles to be released on modern platforms. And with that, we find ourselves at the end of this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, we want to thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful week yourself, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.
Entering asteroid belt.